Hi everyone, welcome back to Our Take with Core and Ty, where we do reviews and recaps of movies and television shows. Today, as promised, we will be doing a recap and review of the second movie in our Lifetime series. Last time we did Line Sisters. This video will be on Single Black Female. Okay, so if you did not catch our Line Sisters video, we'll be leaving a link to it at the end of this video. Okay, so again, today we will be recapping and reviewing Single Black Female starring Raven Goodwin and Amber Riley. But before we get started, I'd like to let you know that there may be some spoilers in this video. So if you have not seen the movie, you might want to watch the movie before you watch our recap. If you do not mind spoilers, then by all means, go ahead and continue watching.
We're known to give some spoilers out.
Just a few, not, well, yeah, just a few. Okay, well, with that said, let's get started with our recap. So, I said it before, the movie stars Raven Goodwin as Monica and Amber Riley as Simone. And it also stars Janet Hubert. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Most of us know her as Aunt Viv from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I know there are many out there like myself who are very excited to see her back on the screen.
Welcome back, Aunt Viv.
She's an incredible actress, and she did really well in this movie. The movie also stars K. Michelle. She plays Monica's best friend, Bibi. And actually, Jeanette Hubert plays Monica's mother, Denise. Okay, so the cast I thought was great, just like with Line Sisters. So I was really excited about this movie. So
Cast.
what did you think of the
I
cast?
like the cast. The cast was actually good. They matched up the two people really well.
Very well.
Amber Riley and Raven Goodwin look very, very similar. I thought that the matchup for this particular movie, the casting of those two was on point. So good job with that. Good to see Aunt Viv back on TV, and I was pleasantly surprised by K. Michelle. Good, so good job. So I like the cast.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I have my power wig on, my power bob in honor of Raven Goodwin's character Monica, who is a professional woman, and she has her power bob. So I'm gonna single black female her. Okay, so the movie starts out at Monica's father's funeral, and Monica is giving the eulogy, and we see that there is a veiled figure in one of the pews in the church. And immediately I knew who that was. I knew that was Amber Riley's character. And I had a suspicion. Should I tell them my suspicion or should I leave it?
Tell.
I kind of knew off the bat that she was probably going to be a sister, like a long lost daughter. Did you feel like that?
Yeah, because the mother seen her. Did you see? Remember Aunt Viv? Well, what's her name? Her
Denise.
Aunt Viv, look, Denise. She looked back and she had. I could, like you said, I could tell she knew who it was when she looked back and saw her. You get that look came over her face, and she had the feeling she knew who it was. And I had that sneaky suspicion too. It was there was some type of relationship between them that was going to play out as the movie went on.
And in my opinion, there were a lot of quite a few predictable moments in this movie. So that's the only thing about this movie. I liked it, but there were a few predictable moments, as you'll see. Okay, so at the funeral, we're also introduced to Monica's boyfriend, who her mother doesn't approve of. And we're also introduced to Bibi, Monica's best friend. So, a couple scenes later, I think in the movie it said it was 2 weeks later, we see Monica tossing her boyfriend's stuff out. They've obviously broken up, and when Monica is talking to BB, we find out that he cheated on her. So they're done. So I kind of figured, since it happened so early in the movie, that there was going to be, it was going to play into the storyline a little bit. Okay, and then also in the beginning of the movie, we meet Mrs. Fletcher, who is Monica's neighbor, her nosy, very nosy neighbor. And ironically, Mrs. Fletcher does not like to have people in her house. She says she doesn't like to have people in her house or in her business, despite the fact that she's always in other people's business. So that's kind of weird.
Not only is she a neighbor, but it's like a duplex. So they're like literally right next door. You go up the porch, to the left is Monica, and to the right is Mitch Fletcher. So they're right there, right next to each other.
So we see her at work, and she works on a morning news show where she co-hosts with another young lady. And they appear friendly, and they appear to be supportive of one another, but then we find out that they are competing for the same job. We also meet the floor director, Eric, who has a flirtation with Monica, Raven Goodwin's character. Okay, so after all of that, we finally get to meet Monica's new assistant, which is Amber Riley's character, Simone. Okay, so Monica's boss hires a new assistant for her, so she didn't even hire herself. The assistant was hired for her.
They never say what happened to the other assistant. I wish they would have. Because I think that would have played into the storyline even more. Because as the movie goes on, a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that really doesn't make the forefront. And I think that's one of the things they could have mentioned. What happened to her previous assistant that they never really got into.
Well, maybe they just they're leaving it to the viewer's imagination. Because I didn't even think of that. I'm just thinking that her assistant is gone. But now that you mention it, yeah.
What happened?
What happened? Because then all of a sudden,
Amber shows up. Well, Simone shows up.
And Simone, after you watch the movie, you'll realize that Simone is very great with positioning herself in certain areas of Monica's life. So it wouldn't surprise me if she had something to do with
the previous assistant.
Yeah. Okay, so on her way home, Simone meets the floor director. Now, this is the guy, Eric, who has a flirtation with with Monica right now.
Monica.
Yeah. So Simone meets him, and it seems like she kind of develops a crush on him.
Yeah, she gets a crush on him right away.
Yeah. And do you think he was flirting with her, or?
No, being nice.
Yeah,
she's the new person, and he's just showing her around. And she takes it, however she took it, given her feelings or instant attraction to him. She took it one way, and I think he meant it in a totally different way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, he was just being nice, but she could kind of, miss.
She ran with it.
She did. She ran with it. Right after that, she sees Elodie, which is Monica's co-host, on a phone call conversation, and she's talking about how
basically she's just bad mouthing Monica.
Yeah.
She's being all fake with her, and at the time they were all cheesy. You thought it was authentic, but then we realized Elodie, she was just talking,
right,
and she's bad mouthing Monica, and of course Simone hears it, so
yeah.
And then she reports it back to Monica, and of course Monica doesn't believe her until she actually confronts her. I think they have her little.
Well, I think she does. You don't think she believed her?
I don't think she believed her.
Oh. Well.
I don't think she believed until she actually talked to Elodie herself.
Yeah, but she didn't come right out and say, I don't believe
you. Yeah.
she just said, "Oh, okay,
Okay.
you know." She was nice about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Elodie and Monica are going for the same job, and they were trying. It was kind of like a friendly competition. That's what it seemed like. But then when Simone overheard Elodie, you know, it seemed like Elodie was making it into a lot more competitive than what she made it out to be. Okay, so then we see on the way home, she goes home because earlier in the day, Simone had mentioned to Monica that she was going to look at an apartment. So she goes to I guess the apartment she was supposed to be looking at, which happens to be Monica's neighbor's house.
Surprise.
Mrs. Fletcher, like right next door
right
to Monica.
Next door.
So, you know, she knocks on the door, Mrs. Fletcher comes out, and she's like, "I'm here about the apartment," and Mrs. Fletcher is like,
no apartment.
Basically.
I want no apartment. What are you talking about?
And, you know, Simone pulls out this huge wad of money and hands it to her, but we never quite see whether or not Mrs. Fletcher takes it. However, we do know that Simone ends up in the house, so somehow she convinced her. Okay, so a little bit later, we see a scene with Monica taking her boyfriend his stuff, and we find out that he cheated on her the night of her father's funeral. But he's swearing up and down that, you know, he doesn't know what happened. One minute he's partying with his friends, and then the next minute, you know, he's cheated on her. So he
begging up and down for forgiveness. She don't believe him.
Yeah.
Just be gone.
Okay, so then Monica finally gets home. She's going into her front door, and then she sees Simone
come
out of Mrs. Fletcher's house, and then realizes that that's her neighbor, and she's like, "Well, where's Mrs. Fletcher?" And Simone is like, "Oh, she went on vacation." She said she went on vacation or something. She said she came up with
She made up. She came up with something on the spot.
And you know, Monica, she said, "Oh, that doesn't really sound like Mrs. Fletcher," but she didn't think anything of it. So basically, Simone invited herself into Monica's house, and then they hung out for a little bit. Monica opened up quite a bit and was very vulnerable. I think it was because they had some drinks, and she was talking about her boyfriend that cheated on her, talking about her father, and that's when Simone seemed like she was very interested in the father, and that's when I kind of knew for sure.
Yeah.
I had a suspicion, but I knew it for sure.
Yeah.
Did you know before that, or
that she was? Well, given how they matched them up, you could make that. It was real easy to make that connection because they look so similar. That was one thing they just look so similar, so it was easy to make that connection and her interest in the father. So yeah, so it was quite obvious at that point. They were related in some type of way, and most likely they were sisters.
Yeah. So then Simone ends up spending the night, and the next morning, Monica gives her some clothes that she was planning to throw out. And one of the things that was in the collection of clothes was a dress. And she sees the dress and she takes it back and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for that to be in that pile. This is a beautiful dress and my dad gave it to me. I want to keep it." And Simone seems a little disappointed. But the dress, it seems like the dress is going to play into it a little bit later. Okay, so then we see Simone back in Mrs. Fletcher's house spraying air freshener and saying, "Mrs. Fletcher, you stink." So I don't want to spoil it, but at that point, I kind of
we don't see Miss Fletcher.
I knew that.
We don't see her. Well, we don't see her. We don't see all of her again.
The actress that played that Miss Fletcher had that one scene. Okay. Yeah, we don't see all of her yet. We won't tell her. We won't tell you guys anything else.
But while all this is going on, I think you're getting ready to get into it. But while all this is going on, the best friend, K. Michelle's character, BB, she ain't feeling her at all. Mm-mm. She ain't feeling Simone at all. I mean, she's trying to tell Monica about her, and Monica's not hearing it or just blowing her off. And you don't know if it's jealousy or suspicion or whatnot, but Monica's really not feeling what BB's saying about Simone. So of course this makes Simone, I mean not Simone, but BB even more determined to get to actually who is this person that all of a sudden is just showed up out of nowhere and seeming to be a big part of Monica's life.
Mm-hmm. So back at work the next day, Monica, bonds a little bit more with Simone and asks her a little bit about herself and her background. And Simone tells her, and later on when Monica mentions it to her mother, the mother kind of looks shook a little bit. So now we know for sure that something's up. So then there's a confrontation between Elodie, the co-host, and Monica.
Monica realizes that what Simone had told her is indeed true. This chick is not really your friend. She's out to get the spot regardless. The friendship ain't what Monica thought it was.
Right.
Simone sees it, and later on, there's a later on, and Elodie has an accident with us.
Basically.
She has an accident.
Yeah. So basically, I think what happened was the lady that they are competing against each other to replace, she, was talking to them, and then Elodie said, "Oh yeah, back when Monica took her vacation, I stepped up," and Monica's like, "It wasn't a vacation, my dad died." Whatever. So that's when Monica knew that what Simone was saying was right. Well. Simone witnesses the fight, and as Corey said later on, Elodie is attacked. And I think we all know. You don't have to watch the movie to know who did it, who done it. Okay, so then back at work, Eric, the floor manager, compliments Simone some more. And see, that's the thing. I know that sometimes people are just trying to be nice. And you have no idea what type of a person you're dealing with. But if you're dealing with someone who, I don't want to say it's unstable, someone who is like Simone, he doesn't
know. He's being nice.
Every time he compliments her or he invites her for coffee or whatever it is, that's just building it up to where she thinks that it's more. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In that case, I feel sorry for her because in her mind, there's more than what it is. But, it is what it is. But later on, as Simone is telling Monica that there's somebody that she's interested in, Monica, she says, "Oh, that's nice and everything," but then she turns around and tells her that she and Eric are going on a date. This does not go over well with Simone at all. So later on, she corners Eric in the elevators, and it's just a very uncomfortable scene. Mostly for Eric.
Yeah, mostly for Eric.
Yeah. Now, this is where the cringe begins. Well, there was cringe before that, but this is where the creepiness enters the picture full force. Okay, so Monica and Eric, they have a really nice date. They kind of hit it off, and they decide to go back to Monica's house or whatever. They end up having sex. Now, Simone is already there because Monica had asked her to pick up
some errands for her.
Yeah, pick up some dry cleaning. And one of the things that was in that dry cleaning was that dress.
The dress
that her father had given her. And so, of course, Simone wants to try it on and everything. And it seems like she spent quite a bit of time in Monica's house because Monica went on a full date.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
giving her the keys to the house.
Yeah, and when she came back, she was still there. So she hops into the closet, and Eric and Monica are having sex, and so Simone is in the closet, watching them. Yes, and then she's pleasuring herself while they're having sex. So later on, afterwards, it was a nice evening for Eric and Monica, but
homeboy couldn't perform.
Yeah, he couldn't perform.
That's the best way to put it. He didn't perform in the bedroom.
Right. So, but Monica's very nice about it or whatever, and she likes him. So later on, when she gets up out of bed and she's about to go downstairs, she sees Simone
trying to sneaking
out, and Simone gives an excuse, oh, I was coming to bring back your key or something like that. And Monica's like, okay, and then she leaves. But I think Monica at this point is still slightly suspicious.
She's starting to, but still
not.
To me, she's not there yet when it comes to some of the stuff BB's been trying to say about her. But
she's not suspicious enough.
Yeah. For my liking, she wasn't suspicious enough. Be creeping around your house at that time in the evening, but anyway.
So the next day, Simone runs into Eric again, and they start talking, and Simone mentions that, Monica told her, no, she just said, Monica and I talk about everything. And then she mentions about his performance the night before. She doesn't directly say that Monica told her that, but she just kind of insinuates it. So, of course, Eric is upset about it. So he goes to Monica and says, okay, I don't think we should see each other anymore. So he basically automatically thought that she had told her. The audience knows, however, that Monica did not tell her that. She was just in the closet watching. So then we see Monica's ex, Andre, again. And he's getting footage from the club from the night when he cheated on her because he wants to prove his innocence. So I guess he looks at the footage, realizes, it's not my fault, but we don't really see exactly do we see what exactly? We do.
We see that she's on the tape with him. I believe that he revealed that she's on the tape. And Simone is in the club with Andre.
So he goes to tell Monica, but he goes to Monica's house. He's banging on her door, but I don't think Monica's there. But even if she was there, she probably would open it. But then Simone, who's like right next door, hears, and she comes out. Okay, now. Not gonna spoil it.
But just like the X and the Line sisters,
it doesn't end well. It does not end well for him.
It doesn't end well for Andre.
Okay, so for Andre. So then after that, Simone meets up with Monica's mom, and this is really where we get the full story, or we can at least kind of
putting two and two together.
What happens, yeah. Because she goes in and Simone is actually kind of excited to have lunch with Denise, but then Denise is just like, okay, you need to stay away from my daughter, you need to leave town, and here's some money. Gives her like $100,000, I think, to leave town and leave her daughter alone. After that, she's in the restaurant screaming. She goes back to Mrs. Fletcher's house. She's screaming. Like, she snaps. Like, even more than she clearly has already snapped. She is completely off her rocker now. So then Eric and Monica meet up at work, and Eric tells Monica about his conversation with Simone. And that's when Monica puts two and two together and realizes that Simone was there and saw them together. So this is where it all comes to a head. So, but we'll just leave it there because we definitely don't want to spoil the end for you. So we'll go ahead and leave it there, and I will ask you, Corey, what is your rating for this film on a scale of 1 to 10?
Scale of 1 to 10. I'm around a 6.
A 6.
Around a 6, because unlike Line Sisters, when it's more of a whodunit type deal, this one you know who pretty much the person is from the get-go. You know going in who the person is, and what the that's just the way the storyline's going. So when it's that way, and so the writing has to be exceptionally well for me, and it was, given the Lifetime movie, I know we come back to that, but given it's a Lifetime movie, I thought some of the parts, I don't like when they make the person so naive. I think Monica was very naive in this. Think they're, and I know they only got so much time space or time limit or whatnot, and they had to pick up the pace some in the movie. But I think there's a lot of holes there in the movie that could have been better done. For instance, right off the bat, the Miss Fletcher situation. She told you, I don't like people in my house. And then, like, literally within hours, Simone's living up in the house. I just wouldn't have bought that explanation of she's on vacation now, when she just had it out with you earlier that morning talking about, I don't like nobody in my house. And all of a sudden she's gone, and you don't question that. And if she is going on vacation, you don't think someone like Miss Fletcher is going to tell you, I'm going on vacation. She's going to tell you she's going on vacation or something. And so I didn't think that was real believable. Just some of the other stuff, I think would have been more convincing if they would have showed some of that stuff happen more on camera, on how devious Simone was, because I think a lot of it happened off screen, and maybe because, like you said, they had to pick up the pace of the movie, so they couldn't get into everything. But the build up to her going crazy, or she was already unstable. But the build up, I guess it was sufficiently done given what they had to work with. I just wish they wouldn't have made Monica. She came off a little naive to me. That was my big thing, and she was a little bit too naive for my liking. So a 6. I like the acting was good, but no, a 6.
A 6. Yeah, I know what you're saying about some of it not being believable. One thing that I will say about Raven Goodwin is she did strike a good balance between kind of being naive and trusting, but then also kind of being a little suspicious. So I always felt like, I never felt like she was completely trusting. Like, I always felt like there was like that little niggling. You know, she kind of gave off that vibe. So in that way, I actually thought that Raven Goodwin did a really good job playing what was given to her, the script that was given to her. But yeah, I definitely think that she opened up a little too quickly with her. You could argue, I guess, that maybe it was like, because it was her sister, maybe she had like some type of connection to her that she wouldn't have to someone else. I don't know, but I definitely agree that she opened up too quickly.
No, you brought the scene up about her, how creepy it got. Now, someone, I mean, she gave her errands that day to drop off the dry cleaning or whatnot. But it had to be well after 12 midnight when Simone tried to sneak out the house and Monica caught her. I mean, right then and there, you catching someone in your house after midnight,
yeah,
and you don't go off on them. No, I just didn't find that. That just wasn't believable to me.
She said that, yeah.
I mean, it's like I don't care what explanation you give me at that point. It's after midnight, you know.
You in my house.
You in my house, you know.
But she did say she was bringing back her keys. She could remember if she locked the door, whatever she said. I don't know.
I'm not believing that, no.
But honestly, I gave it an 8, and maybe I just gave it an 8 because I like the actresses. I don't know.
Soft-hearted.
No, I actually liked it better than Line Sisters, and both of them were predictable. Both of them were a little predictable. This one was extremely predictable because I knew from the beginning that she was like a long lost sister. It was a couple things that we didn't get into that. Well, not a couple things. It was only one thing that we didn't get into that kind of sort of surprised me. But you know, other than that, I pretty much could guess everything that was going to happen. But I liked it.
It was a good watch.
I don't know. I'm not like a fan of thrillers, so I'm not really hard on one that's not, you know.
It's not a thriller.
Great.
Yeah, it's not a thriller.
Now this one was a little more thriller-y to me than Line Sisters.
Do you know who done it?
Well, with Line Sisters, like it just wasn't scary. Like there wasn't any but with this one, every time they showed her in Miss Fletcher's house, I knew Miss Fletcher was gone. Like I just knew it. The whole movie, and every time they showed her inside of Miss Fletcher's house, like I had my eyes covered because I was just waiting to see, you know, like if they would pop, her body would pop up somewhere. I don't know, but like it was just scary to me. Every time somebody would, every time Simone would encounter somebody, like I would cover my eyes because I'm like, is she about to jack this person up? So. To me, it was more of a thriller than Line Sisters. Because with Line Sisters, I just watched the whole thing, and it was entertaining, but it wasn't that, you know, scary to me. So, but yeah, I'd give it an 8. I think Simone was a semi-sympathetic character, even though she was, you know, she clearly had issues. But you know, I think the story and also Amber Riley really made me feel for her in certain areas, even though she was I felt a little sympathy for her. I liked the cast. Janet Hubert was amazing in it, and K. Michelle was really funny to me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but still a 6.
I mean, do you even want to watch the last movie?
Yeah, we go watch it. Tatiana Ali, yeah. So we'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah. So that's it for our recap and review, our take of Single Black Female. So if you like this video, please click the like button, and if you enjoy content like this, please feel free to subscribe. We have other content that we're going to be adding to the channel. And if you would like to comment, we would love to hear from you. If you've seen the movie, what you thought of it, comment down below. So thanks so much for watching.
And thank you, and until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.